What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys have a good day so far. In today's video, we are on the test server here, but at the time of this video upload, you guys will probably have everything live in game. And in this video here, we will be going through the Fusion event calendar for Haggibah, the Nest Maid. Now, keep in mind that this video is pre-recorded before the launch of the Fusion. We were given the schedule ahead of time, so there could be some changes compared to this video and the live schedule that you guys will be seeing in game. So make sure you guys keep that all in mind as we watch through this schedule video. With that all being said, here is the Fusion calendar that we have on hand. So Haggibah, the Nest Maid, will be a traditional fusion. This means we have to collect the rare champions, level them up, and then we have to fuse the epic champions, and then we will have to level up the epic champions and fuse those up into Haggibah, the Nest Maid. Now, Haggibah, for some of you guys, might be the first opportunity you guys get for exchanging your 3 tokens and then able to substitute for another champion from the tier 1, I guess, tier 1/3 token exchange. So it might be your first opportunity to do so. If you guys don't want to exchange, then Haggibah will give you guys 1 fusion token for the future. Now, on first glance, this is a very interesting schedule, guys. So I'll try to guide you guys through this the best I can so we can maximize our resource return and resource efficiency. So you can kind of see here we have the we have the rare champions here. They are going to be Void Affinity. Plarium has been dropping Void Affinity rares for these traditional fusions for a while now. It makes it more difficult for you guys to recover the fusion if you guys fumble one of these rare events. We do have the epic here, Xanthi Sea Flower. Both of these fusion components will be part of the Argonite faction. So for example here, the Horned Viper, pretty bad rare, I would say. It has a 3-turn provoke, which is okay. Otherwise, I wouldn't be using this champion for anything too serious. He does have the block debuff, but it's only for 1 turn. He has increased accuracy, but it's only the small increased accuracy. So you probably only use this champion for her 100% provoke. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, so it can be okay against a single target. Otherwise, just going to be food. And Xanthi here, the Sea Flower. Again, not a bad epic, but not anybody to be really crazy about. A1 block buffs, an AoE decreased attack here with the team heal. This could be a pretty significant heal. The heal is based off of her HP and the amount of debuffs that she can land on the enemy, but her base HP is not particularly high. And then on her A3, it's a 4-turn cooldown, increased resistance, continuous heal. Now, increased resistance is something that doesn't show up too often, so this does have particularly some value. However, 2 buffs on a 4-turn cooldown is not crazy value. So if this is a 3-turn cooldown, like, it would be a lot better, but a 4-turn cooldown, not as crazy. Passive wise, similar to Doom Priest, but honestly not as good. It's only removing a random debuff from this champion. And if a debuff is removed, she gets a continuous heal, whereas Doom Priest removes 1 debuff from everybody on your team and heals everybody for 7.5% heal. So not as good as Doom Priest with the passive, but hey, for faction wars, probably useful. You know, a little bit of sustain, decreased attack, obviously good, a little bit of healing. So probably a decent epic for at least the Argonite faction to help you get through faction wars. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the calendar here. All right, so on day 1, we're going to start off with the Gear Hunters event paired up with the Spider Tournament. This is nice because right away you can get your fusion started off right away. So we have the Spider here, and that is going to be, 2,200 or so energy if you're doing stage 20, for example. Now, stage 20 is going to give you some decent points towards this Gear Hunters event. If it's the normal Gear Hunters event at 3,700 points, it's going to cost you about 5,000 energy. So after you finish your Spider with 2,200 energy, you still have to commit 2,800 more energy into this Gear Hunter to finish it off. And it doesn't look like there's another tournament that's going to line up here, but then you're going to probably spend the extra energy to go into training tournament, or perhaps you just spend the full energy in the Spider tournament. And then you can also double dip into the training tournament by having like a solo farming, Spider team, and then you can train as well as get Spider accessories, and then all of that will go into the Gear Hunters and training tournament at the same time. So, some double dipping, triple dipping opportunities here, right? Always good to see. We do have the gear enhancement events. We got 1, looks like 2, and then looks like 3. Each one of these take between 15 and 20 million silver, depending on how many level 16s you're rolling up. Ideally, you want to roll up as many level 4s as possible, but obviously that's the most time intensive, and that requires you to have that much amount of gear laying around, which is not reasonable. Taking gear to 12 also makes sense. Taking gear to 8 takes the most silver for the least amount of points, so keep that in mind. And that leads us to our first summon rush. So the first summon rush here, we don't have the option of getting any epics, unfortunately. So the first summon rush, we probably expect this to be between 5 and 6 sacred shards just for the rare. I'd be surprised if it was 7 sacred shards or 4 sacred shards. Around 5 or 6 would be my guess here. And then we have a classic arena tournament. That's going to be one freebie there, one freebie here. And then that's going to lead us into the Dragon Tournament. Now, the Dragon Tournament is going to line up a little bit with the Champion Training Tournament. You can definitely double dip for some training points for your Dragon Tournament. Again, 2,200 points here is needed, or 2,200 energy is needed to finish that on stage 20. If you want to do hard 10, you're going to reduce your efficiency by about 10%. So it's about 2,500 energy for that. And then that's going to lead us into Summon Rush 2. Now, Summon Rush 2 is something that we started to see a little bit more recently, where Plarium has been putting in 3 summoning events, infusion events. Now, this Summon Rush 2 is also in the middle of the week. We saw this happen very recently, and this is a part where I will remember because it caught me off guard a little bit, because the second Summon Rush, there was no difference between the second and the first Summon Rush, except in that fusion, the second Summon Rush cost more. So by skipping the first one, you actually paid more for the second one. In this case, we have to keep in mind how much we're paying for the first one. So if the first one is actually more expensive than what we are expecting, I would say anything more than 6.5 sacred shards is pretty expensive. You might want to take a gamble here on the Summon Rush 2 and hoping for a better price. On the flip side of that, if Summon Rush 1 is, reasonably priced or within the expectations, then sure, you can do Summon Rush 1 without having to think about Summon Rush 2, for example. But just something to keep in mind that Plarium did put this in. I think most recent fusion, they did do this with 3 summoning events, 2 Summon Rush and a Champion Chase. And then on the second Summon Rush, it was more expensive. So definitely something to keep in mind. We do have a Fire Knight tournament here with 2 rares in this training event. Again, very interesting. This is a very multi-layered kind of schedule here. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to keep track of. Fire Knight and Champion Training don't really overlap too well. There's not too many champions that can solo Fire Knight with food, for example. I think Edward can do it. I think he can do it. And that's going to be on stage 20. So this Fire Knight tournament is going to cost you 2,200 energy if you're doing stage 20. You will have some double dipping or triple dipping opportunity if you can do training with Fire Knight here with the second Dungeon Diver. And this one is going to cost you 5,000 energy if you're doing stage 20, for example. And you're going to also have opportunity here to spread out some energy with the Ice Golem. And then you do have some triple dipping opportunity here with the training event, Gear Hunters, and Ice Golem. There are some solo options for Ice Golem, and especially if you're doing stage 20, where Poisoner is going to be pretty good for that. All right, so we talked about all the basic standard stuff here. Now, the big thing in this fusion schedule that we're noticing here, obviously, is the 3 summoning events. So we got Summon Rush 1, we got Summon Rush 2, and now we have a Champion Chase at the end. Keep in mind that since this is a traditional fusion style fusion, you can do all your training for the rares and then all the training for the epics during these multiple training events. That's great. And you can also fuse the epics during this Champion Chase. So you are, probably in line to get at least 3 of the epics here. So that's an, casual 750 points added towards this Champion Chase. So keep that in mind. We also have a brand new login champion, I believe, starting on the 1st or the 2nd. So we have a brand new login champion. And after 7 days, we will be able to claim that champion, right? So that means we can actually delay claiming him until this Champion Chase starts, which will give us another 500 points. Okay, guys? So these are just easy points that we can add towards this Champion Chase if we want to do it. And of course, when you finish the fusion and then summon your legendary champion, that's going to give you additional 500 points. But for the sake of this schedule, we're not going to count that because that means you would have completed the fusion already. So that 500 points doesn't really help you. Now, the other crazy thing is that there is an epic chilling out in this Champion Chase. Now, this epic is a really big gamble in my opinion, because first of all, it comes very late in the fusion. So if you pick up this epic, there's not really too many events you can skip at this point anymore. You can maybe skip the 2 rares needed in the champion training event. You could perhaps skip the ice golem tournament at the end, perhaps skip the gear hunters at the end, but there's not too many high value events you can skip. You can't skip, for example, like the summon rushes. I mean, you could, but it's a big gamble, especially if you're banking on picking up this epic. Now, I did look for, I did backtrack a little bit and see if I could find an epic in a champion chase from a previous fusion. I was not able to do so. Now, I did find in the Mavara fusion, it's not the same kind of thing, but we did get a double threshold in the champion chase. You can kind of see here 5,500 for 50 of the fragments towards 1 epic in this champion chase. So I'm thinking that if you wanted to go for the epic, in this Haggibah champion chase, it's going to cost you more than 5,500, because this is the example that we have. 5,500 from the Mavara fusion. We have the double threshold, 50 fragments here. 50 fragments is only half an epic. So in the Haggibah's fusion schedule right here, we have the full epic. So that's going to be, the equivalent of 100 fragments, right? So I would fully expect this Xanthi epic in this champion chase to be more expensive than 5,500, maybe 6,000, maybe 6,500. Like even then it would be kind of cheap, to be honest, maybe even 7,500. But it just means that we need a lot of, points. Now, a lot of points for this champion chase. Now, keep in mind, we do have a couple of freebies here. Look, like we have 750 from the Epics Fusion. We have 500 from the freebie Valerian. So, you get a couple of freebies there already, but you still have to come up with, a good amount of points just to get this epic. So I would say getting the epic is a huge gamble, especially if you skipped, the summon rush. If you skip prior events, banking on getting this epic in this champion chase at the end, I think it's a huge gamble. Just be very careful, guys. Make sure you guys have a lot of things banked up. The other thing working against this champion chase is that it's very likely to be 2x sacred shards, guys. Sacreds is not what you want to be using even on a 2x boost during the champion chase. Each sacred is worth 280 points. You guys can do the math there, how many sacreds you guys need to reach whatever point total you guys need. On average, about 280 points. Obviously, you can get lucky, you can get unlucky, but on average, it's 280. You're going to be pulling a boatload of sacreds if you guys are going to pull sacreds. You guys obviously want to pull other things, remnant summons, prism shards, whatever, anything else, mystery shards, ancient shards. Even without boosted rates, I would rather pull those smaller shards than pull sacreds for a champion chase. Now, I think a lot of you guys are going to be jumping into this fusion, not because Haggibah is very insane. Now, if you guys checked out my showcase video on her, I don't think she's very good. I think she has a kind of a limited kit, to be honest. She might be helpful, like if she's your first legendary or something. She has 100% HP burn at A1. That is kind of useful. She has a strip ability, which can be good, but so does Madame Sears, and she's an epic. So does Rian, and she's an epic that you get for free from Doom Tower normal. So her kit's not unique or that great, at least right now. So I think a lot of you guys are going to jump into her to get the fusion swap token system swap going on. So I think Plarium probably made this a little bit more tricky, a little bit more dangerous of a fusion. I like the event layout, a lot of double dipping, triple dipping opportunities here, but the 3 summoning events, this can be very, very hairy. Like I said, the champion chase is not ideal. It is good that you're going to get some additional points here from the free Valerian, from the fusing of the epics. So those are effectively free points if you just plan for it. What is going against the champion chase is that it's 2x sacred. So you do need some other ways of summoning. So for example, broad malls would be good if you guys saved up some of those. If you guys saved up, any of your fragments. I have Telena still ready. I have Folin still ready to be pulled. So if I wanted to do a champion chase, I could jump into that. The other scary thing that could happen is if they decide to put a winner take all event in this champion chase. Now, we are into mid-July, right, with this champion chase. So they don't have too many more champion chases to put these winner take all type events in. So I could definitely see them putting a winner take all for Rhea, the Morn in this champion chase, because first of all, it's going to be a very nasty champion chase because you can't acquire points easily. You got 2x sacreds. It's not going to be an easy champion chase to get a lot of points in. So it's going to be very, very competitive, or it's going to be very expensive for one person just to get ahead. You'll likely be pulling shards off 2x rates. So ancient shards, void shards, whatever shards off 2x rates. So it's going to be very expensive to get points. You're not going to get very good quality pulls. I think this just makes sense for them just to put the winner take all here. And then you have 2 weeks to juice the rest. Obviously the 5-star soul for Rhea would come in at some point, and then you still have Varkos somewhere also. I think this champion chase, if you're not in a position to win Rhea, I think this champion chase is probably a high skip priority. The other thing that's interesting about this entire schedule that I don't see very often with traditional schedules is that there is an extra rare in here. There's an extra rare. So you can kind of see here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's actually 5 rares there. And usually that's not the case. Usually Plarium doesn't give us a redo or a backup plan, right? So in this case, you can fully skip the champion chase and not participate in it if you completed every single event up until this point. That is a solid option. If you just cared about exchanging Haggibah, getting the fusion done, not worrying about the champion chase or anything like that, it's perfectly viable to complete everything and then just fully skip the champion chase. In which case, you probably would have spent, somewhere around 5 sacred shards and for that one, and then probably spent about 5 sacred shards here for the second summon rush. We'll just say hypothetically, hopefully it's 5 sacred shards and not something ridiculous like 7 sacred shards. But that's probably what you're looking at. Not much flexibility here, especially if you're not doing the champion chase. But if you're doing the champion chase, let's say, for example, you don't have a lot of sacred shards and you can only complete one of the summon rushes, and then you had to jump into the champion chase, at least you have this going on for you guys. You have a little bit of room here to start adding up for your one rare that you need. Obviously, going for the epic is a luxury at this point, but keep that all in mind. So game plan, either you go both summon rushes and then full skip the champion chase, or you go 1 summon rush and then go into the champion chase. All right, guys, it really depends what kind of resources you guys have remaining. I think going for the epic so late in the champion chase doesn't really give you a lot of value back. Perhaps you can skip, if you get it, perhaps you can skip the gear hunters, perhaps you can skip the training event, but it's not as crazy as allowing you to skip the summoning events, unless you want to skip the summoning events and then take your chances trying to go for the epic. But like I said, the epic is probably going to be very, very expensive, and getting points for the champion chase is going to be very, very difficult if the rotation stays on 2x sacreds, which it should. But you never know, it could be 2x primals. You never know what Plarium's going to do, right? But these are the assumptions that we are making right now for the schedule. One last thing before I let you guys go. So in the middle of this fusion, right, we have CVC happening right now. It's going to be at the start, around the start of the fusion. We have the CVC happening next week. We don't have CVC. We have Siege. You also notice that there is kind of a blank here in terms of gear hunters. There's no gear hunters between the first gear hunters and the second gear hunters. It's a pretty big gap. You guys see that gap? Gap's right here. Okay, so Saturday, and then the next gear hunter starts on Saturday. A full week without gear hunters? I don't think so. I think they're definitely going to throw in some kind of event. It's probably going to be a Deck of Fate somewhere here between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's probably going to be gear hunters related. Now, since there is a second summon rush already active, it won't be summoning shards related. So gear hunters plus something else. Is it going to be soul stones again? That's a big ask, especially when people just used soul stones for Talena last week. To do soul stones again on some kind of event would be pretty painful for, I think, majority of people, and I don't think they would do that. So I would expect some kind of gear hunter related event. Maybe it's gear hunters, maybe it's plus silver. I could see them doing an event where silver is involved. They haven't done anything like that in a while, but it could just be a simple Deck of Fate, maybe for some gear pieces, etc., right? But definitely I would expect something midweek, gear hunter related. Really not sure. They just did a Deck of Fate. I don't expect Varkos here. Varkos probably will show up after Fusion at some point. And my guess for Varkos would be a hero's path for shards, and his soul will be involved. So Varkos and soul in the same hero's path for shards, plus whatever energy or training or gear hunters or whatever. And I would expect that probably sometime after the fusion, before the end of the month. So a lot of things to think about. It's a pretty cool, like, it's an interesting schedule. It's interesting enough that it kind of keeps you on your toes. But there's some good things about the schedule as well. Like I said, double dipping, triple dipping opportunities. And we do have some flexibility here because we do have 3 summon events to actually check in on. I think most people are probably going to jump into 1 summon rush and then get the rare from the champion chase and then call it a day, because the champion chase, just for the rare, I don't think it's going to be too crazy expensive. And I think it's going to be manageable for most people, especially if you want to save some sacred shards, because otherwise you're spending, 5 to 6 sacred shards on each event. And then, yeah, that's a lot of sacred shards for a fusion. So maybe complete 1 summon rush for 5 or 6 sacred shards and then jump into the champion chase, collect your epics, collect your free Valerian, and then just finish off the remaining, little bit of points with like mystery shards and what have you, brawn malls and what have you, and you would have gotten this fusion relatively cheaply. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this fusion event calendar here. Like I said, this is a pre-recording with the schedule before it's going live. There could be some changes to the schedule. Let me know in the comments below if there are, of course, and I'll make a pinned comment with some corrections if needed. Hopefully all of this makes sense. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this schedule. Are you guys going for Haggibah? Are you guys going for her just because you guys are going to exchange her? Do you guys see any uses for her? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you guys check out the showcase on her somewhere here if you guys haven't already. Also, make sure you guys check out the showcase here on Valerian, the brand new login champion. You guys might be surprised at his overall performance. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate that. Have a great day. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you guys in the next video.